we need to start finding out some solutions. But there's some very simple things. Sometimes some solutions are so simple that they look complicated. Sometimes we got stuff right in our fingertips that we don't even know is there. You have to remember, we're cosmic people, we're heavenly people, we're celestial people because we got the black dot. So therefore, we got certain types of weapons we can call upon to help us that the other ones ain't got access to. It's our job to ferret that out and find that stuff and make use of it before we get hurt anymore. Because we got enough of us going down now. And it pains me when I see large numbers of our people getting wiped out for frivolous reasons. Because I know it's feeding right into that death machine that they set up. So we got to get busy on the fast track, okay, to solutions. But one of the things I told them in Brooklyn in terms of solutions, we have some very, very powerful weapons on our side that the whiteys are terrified of. And if we ever find out what these weapons are, they're going to run. Believe me, they're going to get off the planet quick. Because they're preparing for that now as an option. But they're going to exercise that option if they ever realize that we plug into some of the stuff we got right now. That's not that expensive, materially anyway. I was talking about the ancestors. Now, one of the problems we have is that we're Christian. How many of y'all are Christians? All right. Now, one of the problems that we have is because of our Christian background, our Christian process, a thought process, is that we have a tendency to think of our relationship with the hereafter in a linear fashion. That's a problem. Because according to linear sciences, according to linear mythology, right, this is linear, right, there is a break or a disconnection between what is here, below, and what is above. In other words, they say we can pray to the saints, right? They got saints, what they call saints. We can pray to the saints. We can supplicate the saints. And we can pray to God, right? But we have to understand that in praying to them, they may or may not answer us, right? Because they're so distant. Because they're supernatural creatures. That's what you're taught, according to the rules of Christianity, that the hereafter deals with the supernatural, the beyond the natural. But that is not what African science teaches at all. If you know anything about African science, then you know that this don't count. Because Africans don't think linear. Africans think like this. Okay? Now, if you take that line that the Europeans use as their thinking process, right, and you put it in this, it would only represent 1 degree. Okay? 1 degree and 1 degree and 1 degree ultimately adds up to 360. But see, they only think in terms of 1. That's how limited their thinking is. Right? And the Christian doctrines that we have had imposed on us by the missionaries, okay, basically teach us to think like this, so we myopic. You know, and Christianity ain't the only one. Let's get that straight too. All of them. All of them is the same. I'm sorry, I hurt somebody's feelings. All of them proselytizing religion, that's the key word. All those proselytizing religions are the same. There's no difference between one and the other. And they're anti-African because they're all like this. Okay, they're linear. Okay, we need to get like this because the earth ain't flat. Okay, it's round. Okay, the earth does not rotate in a square. It rotates in a circle. So we got to get with the program. All right, and understand that Africans don't deal with saints. Africans never dealt with saints. We don't understand the concept of saints. Africans deal with ancestors. The hereafter is the area of the ancestors. It's the field of jurisdiction of the ancestors. And the ancestors, when you talk about ancestors, you're dealing with hierarchies. So the Europeans talk about angels and archangels and cherubs, right? And God, and God's son, and God's mother, right? The Africans don't have none of that in their cosmology or mythology. They have hierarchies based on ancestors, okay? And it's a very specific type of a science because it deals in a certain type of way with time, because those ancestors who you knew most recently are the ones closest to you in the hereafter. So therefore, the ancestors leave you a vehicle of contact. So just like the Europeans separate the here and the hereafter, the Africans break that line. And they say, oh no, they say, your closest ancestors can reach. You can reach them and they can reach you. So the line is an illusion invented by your enemies to keep you in check. Because they don't want you taking advantage of a very powerful weapon you got at your fingertips. You don't need no computer. You don't need a gun. You don't need none of that stuff, money, to get to your ancestors. All you got to do is ask. You know who your ancestors are. Everybody in here got an ancestor because everybody in here had somebody close to them that died. Everybody. There's some ancestors that you know, and there's some ancestors that you don't know. But just because you don't know who your ancestors are don't mean they don't know. So if you don't know who they are, then you can ask the ones who you do know to find out who the others are. And you can build up a cadre. You see, you can build up a corps that you can use to throw at your enemies. And this is one of the biggest secrets that they don't want you knowing nothing about. So what they do is they indoctrinate you in these proselytizing religions. I could use some other words, but I don't want to get funky. Proselytizing, that's the formal word. The formal word is proselytizing, right? Proselytizing means those religions that are onto a save and conquest binge. Okay, if you're onto the save and conversion kick, that's what proselytizing is. When you're trying to convert, you try to reach out and bring in, you know. All of them are like that. Even Buddhism. Some people say, no, wait a minute, Buddhism's cool. All the others are fake, but Buddhism's cool. Buddhism was bastardized just like the rest of them was. Because after Buddha left, they took his stuff and twisted it all up. Okay, and they had the wars with the Hindus to prove it. Because if they was real, they would have never won the war against the Hindus. Right? You had all these Brahmin castes that was set up. So I don't care how many people are going to tell me that Buddhism is okay because it's the Easternmost religion. All of them is the same. The only true religion, believe it or not, the only real religion is you. The only real religion is you. The only person who can save you is you. If you got a savior, if you got somebody that's going to come to you and tell you they're going to be your savior, you better get away from them quick. Run as fast as you can, because that person's a fake and probably going to rob you in the process and maybe get you killed. And there's a lot of phony balonies running around here now, all calling themselves saviors. All kind of mystics running around, all kind of crazy stuff coming out their mouth, saying they're going to save you. Right? And I'm not going to name names because you all know who they are. Right? There's a whole laundry list of them. Get away from them. Because if you don't know about yourself, they don't count. What I'm suggesting is that one of the things you need to do is get in touch with your ancestors. I do this every day. I take a period of my time every day where I stop everything. Whatever I'm doing, I stop it. That's the African tradition. And you get with your people. You get with your ancestors. And you trade notes. You know, it don't have to be no elaborate. See, one of the problems I have with Christianity and some of them other religions is that they spookified and sophisticated this stuff so bad that you can't even make no sense out of it halfway. So half people don't even bother thinking about it. They just go to church and, get their tithe and get out of there because it gives them a headache. Because it's so complicated. So you don't have to, it's helpful sometimes to do rituals. A lot of people into these rituals, you get all kind of West African so-called religions, do these real fancy rituals. Oh my God. The candles and the incense and the this and that and the water and the dancing. And, they're into all of it. But if you don't have a sincere heart when it comes to your ancestors, all that don't matter. You can have all the rituals you want, and they'll still spin your eye and get you killed. Your ancestors will do that to you because they'll call you a fool. They say, look at that fool down there. Let's go off that one. Get rid of him. Get him out of the way. They'll do that to you because they don't like phony stuff. They want you to be sincere. Now, when I contact my ancestors, one of them being my mother, I don't go through no whole fancy baloney stuff. I sit down and I say, look, I need some help. And it don't have to be over no spooky item. I could be broke one day. And I can say, look, I need some cash, quick. Mama, would you please come down here and give me some cash? There's nothing sophisticated about that. But that ancestor is there for that. But just like you can ask your ancestor for cash or ancestor for food or any other material thing you want or any non-material thing you want, you can also ask them for weapons to fight your enemy. You can ask them for that. And they'll give you that. And I give you some real classic, some very tiny little examples. And this happens, I know my ancestors are cool with me. And we have a very good relationship because I've developed a language with them. A very clarity is language with them. Okay? And you say to yourself, because you're Christian or whatever you are, westernized, you say, well, look, I'm trained that there's a break. They dead. They dead. So, I don't want to be spooky. And I don't want to be praying on my knees to something dead because that might be idol worship. That's what you train as a Westerner. Right? But what you need to understand is that if you make a sincere effort to get with your ancestors, they will answer you in very direct ways. And I have had all kinds of weird stuff to prove it. Now, if you don't want to believe it, fine. That's your business. But I know for myself, what they do with me. So I have an open, ongoing relationship with my ancestors, right? The closest one, the most immediate one being my mother, because that's the most recent one that died. And I know that I can talk to her because I knew her. But I also know that she can deal with the other ones because she's not here, she's there. There's an equation here that's established. And it happens with everybody. So for instance, let me tell you what happened, something really interesting. And this shows you the language of the ancestors and the hereafter, so-called. Yesterday, we was getting ready to leave out of Philly. And we was running because we didn't want to be but so late getting down to Atlanta because we knew it was going to be a long trip. So we was boogieing on out the door. And something hit me right in my head. And while the brothers was in my hallway getting ready to go out the door, something said, stop and go to the phone and get on the phone and call Atlanta. And I went to the phone and called Atlanta, and Uma answered the phone. And she said, boy, I was just getting ready to call you. Is that correct? Okay. She said, I was just getting ready to call you. And I laughed to myself because I said, that's part of the language of the ancestors. Some people call that coincidence. That's the big word the whiteys use. Boy, that sure was coincidental.
That's a con. That's the coincidence.
Right, that's a con game. Right? Whenever, I don't believe in coincidences because I believe in my ancestors. In other words, I'm not going to sell them cheap by believing that it can't ever happen. So if something just hit me like a bolt out of the blue and stopped me dead in my tracks and turned me around and got me to the phone and got me to call the sister. And she picked up the phone, and she said, I was just getting ready to call you. I know that's not coincidence. Yeah, I'll show you what else along the same trip, involving this trip from Atlanta, as further examples of this. Okay? This is real deep. It went from deep to deeper. Because this morning, I was supposed to catch the 6:25 train from downtown Philadelphia to the airport in Philadelphia. And I was running way, way, way behind. And quite frankly, I didn't even know where the train station was. I was in downtown Philadelphia, and I found out from one of the cops down there that I had got off at the wrong stop by about 4 or 5 blocks. It just so happened that my train was leaving in 5 minutes, and I had 3 blocks to cover. And while I was walking down the street, this cop had told me to go this way, so I'm going this way. And as I was going that way, this sister just zoomed right past me. She was running down the street. She was tearing that street up. There was nobody else on the street because it's 6 o'clock in the morning, 6:30 in the morning. And I said I told the brothers the story. I said, I wonder what she's doing. And I was taking my sweet time trying to get to the train station. The cop said, go to 12th Street. I'm on 8th Street. He said, go to 12th Street, and the door should be open up there. Well, this sister zoomed on past me, and she's running all the way down this block by herself. And I'm watching this sister, and I'm saying, I wonder what her problem is. So I seen her turn the corner. She turned the corner like a Marine. Bam, right? And I said, man, that sister tearing that street up. So I said, maybe I ought to follow her. This is a true story. This really happened. So I started boogieing on down the street behind her, right? And I made the right turn too. And I seen it, and then she made a left turn. And I said, man, she's really going. So then an idea started popping in my head. I said, I wonder if she's going to the train station. So I boogied on down to the corner. Here it turns out that she had found a back entrance to the train station where the door was open. All the other doors was locked. So if I had followed the policeman's instructions, I would have missed my train. But something said to me, follow that sister. It just so happens that that sister was getting on the same train I was getting on. And at the point that I boogered on down them steps in that train station and jumped on the train was actually in motion. It was moving. And the conductor was saying, come on, come on, come on. And I jumped that platform and jumped into that train while it was in motion. And I said, damn. I said, I had no idea the time was that close. But something made me follow that sister. And then the sister disappeared. I was trying to find her on the train. I couldn't find her. I was looking around. I said, well, she's in there somewhere. I couldn't find her. So I'm saying, well, I wonder, that's the second time it happened. Then something else happened today. It was really beautiful. I really want to, this really goes to the spirit of Atlanta. You know, they always talk about Southern hospitality. And up north, we take that as a joke, because ain't no hospitality nowhere in the north. Believe me. I mean, they'll leave you dead on the street. You'll be bleeding to death. And they're not going to touch you or call nobody either. You just die on the street if you get hurt, right? But just today, we had to get over to the radio station. And quite frankly, we didn't even know where this place was, right? We had no idea where we was going. All we knew we was going somewhere towards the center of Atlanta. So we boogied on down the highway this afternoon, right? And we came up here, right? And we was talking to the sister and the brother. And another brother walked in here and just happened to get in a conversation. At the clear blue nowhere, I didn't know this brother from a can of paint. Started talking to me while we was in the bookstore, right? And we said, look, we got to boogie on over to the radio station, right? And we're not quite sure. So the brother said, follow me. He was driving the cab. So he jumped in the cab, we jumped in the car, and he zoomed. That brother was zooming, right? The brother was zooming. And we like ducking and dodging, going through all this traffic. And I was saying, man, I said, if we didn't have that guy, I don't know where we'd be. So he was making all these right turns, left turns, up turns, down. I mean, he was moving, right? And then he stopped at one point, right? In the middle of this, he stopped, right? And he said he had to go somewhere. He had to take care of some other business, right? But he said, well, you probably don't know where it's at anyway. It's a hard little street to find. So he said, follow me, I'll take you right there. And the brother took her in his cab. He took us all the way through Atlanta to, what's that station, W what? And it just so happened that there's no way we would have ever found that place. But the brother took us to the front door, didn't he? He took us to the front door. So, those kinds of things just don't happen. But I want to thank, y'all Atlanteans. I think that's the spirit of Atlanta, the spirit of us in Atlanta. Right. I really, really do appreciate that spirit because, see, we have lost something in the North. When we boogied on up there and got with them factories, them factory jobs up there, we lost something. We lost something. And it goes back to the cosmic thing because there is a thing here in the South. There is a spirit here in the South. We looked at this red clay all day. I was looking at it from the sky. That sky is beautiful. I mean, that red clay is beautiful from the sky. It's brilliant. And all today we kept talking about the red clay. And there's a mystical thing with that red clay too. And I've seen several people talk about that red clay. Because there's so much of us attached to this land here. That's why these whiteys will never really be able to put us off of this land. Because we have a soul connection to this land down here in the South that we don't have in the North. You see? And that's part of the spirit of the South. You see? And that's why this really is ours. I don't care who else going to claim it. This really is ours. And that whitey know it. That whitey know that sooner or later, one day, they're going to have to give this up. They're going to have to give it up. Whether it means they got to exit the scene and just vacate it, or whether they give it up knowingly. They're going to have to give this up because we done sacrificed too much in this. And part of that red clay is a symbol of that, of our blood in the soil. It's soaked every square inch. When I was looking down at Georgia from the plane, and I saw these huge red fields of this clay, this red Georgia clay. That thought kept coming to me. I kept saying, boy, these whites would love to get that thought as far away from them as they can get. They don't ever want to rationalize that kind of a thing. Because that's the kind of thing that brings them intense pain, a guilt thing. And when I was going through the airport terminal, I was watching some of these white folks, and they're stalling wrong, whatever they call that thing. And I was just looking at them like, I just had to shake my head, because I said, if I was to confront any one of them about this kind of a thought process, they might lock me up, But I couldn't help but think about that, We're attached to this land in a way that's undetachable. We cannot be detached from this. But there's a spiritual connection to here that we don't have in the North. And that's why sooner or later there's going to be some major things happening with that too. Because see, these whiteys, whether y'all know it or not, these whiteys is making a move. These whiteys are so desperate right now that they're starting to fight each other. They're going to war against each other. And we made a horrible mistake in the first go-round. We made a terrible mistake because we picked sides. That's the worst thing we could have did. We picked sides. You don't get no family dispute. You heard that plenty of times. You don't get no family dispute. If these people go to war against each other, let them go to war. Let them do whatever they're going to do because it's all a guilt thing anyway. And then we need to make our own decision on what we're going to do from there. Because right now, I talked about this April the 19th, April 29th. There's some weird stuff going on in Texas. Some of y'all know about this. Right. There's some real strange stuff going on in Texas right now. And the feds are scared out of their minds. Right now, as I'm speaking, they got all kind of federal officers, ATF, FBI, running on over there to Texas because these whites over there in Texas done went ballistic. Right? Am I right? They done went ballistic over there. They're saying stuff that's scaring the hell out of Washington. Because they're saying it's over. They're saying it's over. This is done. And the feds are real scared, and we need to watch that very carefully because there's going to be some things happening in this country. If you saw Waco and Oklahoma City and Randy Weaver was tough, believe me, believe me when I say you ain't seen the tip of the iceberg yet. Because some of these whiteys that went ballistic with this stuff, and let me tell you something. These whiteys got guns that you would not believe. I mean, I can't even describe the kind of weapons these people got. Because all their brothers and sisters is in the military. And half them guns has been stole out of the military. It's going to guess where? It's going to their homies. They're getting everything. Everything short of jet planes they got, believe me. Everything short of B-52s and F-18s, they got it. And this government right now is scared to death. If this goes much further the way it's going now, they're going to have a serious problem in this country. And then we're going to be put in a position where we're going to have to make a decision on what we're going to do. Now, the last time it went down, we lost 250,000 men on battlefields for what? For what? Here we are 100, how many years later? And what do we got to show for? Right? Now, I love Frederick Douglass. Don't get me wrong. I love Frederick Douglass because he's one of my ancestors. And I will pay him homage as an ancestor. But the man made a calculated mistake. The man made a mistake. He said, join the Union. He was wrong. We are an African people. We're not no Union people. I don't care what you say. You can put on all the blue uniforms you want. These people are never going to give you respect. They're never going to give you the respect. None of them. So that time is going to come, and we're going to see signs and symbols of this very, very soon in the immediate future, because they're preparing right now for a serious throwdown. And it's going to get real, real nasty, because when they threw that thing there in Oklahoma, now some of that stuff was government-inspired, okay? Waco, that stuff was government-inspired, but they wouldn't have been able to do that thing if they also didn't feed on the genuine motivations of some of these white people. Some of these white people is determined to get out of this. And if they have to kill, they're going to do it. And that's why they're getting all these guns. So that's what I wanted to say. But look, I don't care how many guns they got. We got some weapons that they can't touch with no guns and bullets. So, you know, and the magic, part of the ancestors is part of the magic. So if you can't do nothing else, do that. Take 5 minutes out of your day and talk to whoever's dead that's near you. And you will be surprised to see what kind of answer you get. So let's go to questions and answers. Yes?